Intake form, so expression of interest form, intake form, however we call it, that is the form that we use to onboard our clients or participants, and that's where we capture all the information that we will need to be able to deliver a successful session. Very important step, the better the onboarding, the better the intake. This is one of the first digital interaction between you and your client. This is what you want to nail down and want to make sure that you not only are setting up yourself and your team for success, but you also want to make sure that your client has the best experience. I always hear that people are overwhelmed by forms, so trying to lighten up the process will definitely help you providing a better client experience. This is part of our booking and onboarding steps. Some people has the intake form here, and then they do the booking, they then do maybe a service agreement, a second step. So having a multi-step form also can support you between the two steps. So I will explain you a bit better. So if we look at a form, we know what it looks like. So basically something like this. Let's look at a real form. So we have different sections, we have different data that we will capture in order to gain all the information we need. And then we know that the form, this is what it looks like in the front end. But the reality is that in the back end, there is some stuff happening. So when the form is submitted, actually information is sent out to different programs, spreadsheets, automation, CRM. So let's see how we could power up our intake form so we can capture all the information we need and automate all the systems in the background. So let's say we have a first step that is who's completing the form. So it's very helpful to understand who's actually completing the form, because sometimes the person who receives the service and the person who cares or represents the person who received the service is different. So having some options here will help. Having some options here will also support you in creating ad hoc conversation. So let's say, for example, this is a healthcare professional that's referring a client, but is not necessarily caring or representing the client. Then we will have their name and their information added to a stakeholder communication list. So when a communication you want to send an email to all the healthcare professionals, you will be able to target them because they've been tagged and information is being captured. Of course, we will be collecting marketing consent, but you have a system in place to categorize your stakeholders. Let's say you have different categories and you would like to target them with a promo or with a service related information or anything you have an extra channel of communication open in that case. When the client details have been added, a new file is automatically added to our CRM or practice management software. So I see many practices still add manually the new client, and this of course will increase our chances of error, misspelling a name or putting some information wrong. Having this one mapped to your CRM, it means that whatever is written here, it's whatever will be written will be recorded in your CRM. As I said, the person that put the form in can be different from the person that cares, or a parent from the client or the participant. So it's important to have them also recorded in different way, tag them in a different way. So if there is any information related to service, you want to be ensure. Let's say, for example, you know that there is a session on a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. The session gets cancelled. You don't want to contact the person who's completing the form, but you want to contact the person that is actually receiving the service or representing and or caring for the person receiving the services. Cultural consideration, imagine on submission, all of this is recorded into your CRM. You don't have to put this manually. With NDIS, sometimes we have service agreements, and we know that the person that fills in the form not necessarily is the same person who signed the document, which means you will have you will have the extra manual step to send the document, which will then stretch the time of the intake. Having this option here will allow you to give the person who fills in the form a third-party email or information, so the form, the contract, the service agreement can be sent to a different individual. Referral, many have these, not many understand how to actually use it. I see lots of practices stressing about social media marketing, yet when they look at the history of the referral, there's no social media marketing. So understanding what are the channels that are generating traffic, it's very critical for your growth, and that is where you should be focusing your effort. So if you know that most of your referrals are coming in from healthcare professionals, then you will have to understand how to target healthcare professionals, grow on that channel, max out that channel, and move on to social media or EDM or whatever you think it's more appropriate to your business. Medical information, let's say they have like a behavior support plan or some allergies or seizure plans. You want to make sure that information is captured from the get-go and is all over your CRM, so people who interacts with this client or participant is aware that this medical information that is aware of the medical information. Service delivery information, again, most of the times we assume that the address of the client will be the same address where service will be delivered, and that is wrong. Sometimes we deliver service, maybe if we do outreach, it can be a school or a library or a just in a different location. So we want to make sure that we capture the right address for service delivery, and so the therapist or the carer or the nurse knows where to go. This is where we have fun with email sequences, and we start creating an onboarding experience that is much nicer than the one provided by your competitors. This is where we get our client and participant to familiarize with our services, with our people, what to expect. This is really important because then, of course, this will lead to a better client experience, a higher retention rate, more chances of referrals. This is what wows the client or the participant or the parent. You want to make sure that you provide all the information is needed before they come in. Where to park, what to expect. Maybe you can provide them a little surprise, something that like really get them to start liking your brand. I see too many boring practices out there. Get into the booking, get in the intake, booking, payment, rinse and repeat. That is boring. We have to create a client experience that is remarkable, and communication is one of key factors in creating this client experience. So having some automation that start trigger automatically when the service agreement or the contract is received or the booking is confirmed is very important. Funding information, most of the times we ran out of funding. We don't know if we ever gonna recover the money again. Having some reminders in place will be really handy. Sometimes we send the service agreement once it's signed to a second or a third party, like a plan manager or someone who manages the funds. Having this information maybe mapped on a private calendar with some reminders, so we know that the reminders will trigger a month before the plan is expired. So hey, we know that your plan is expiring it's needs to be rolled over or it's due for a review. in 4 weeks? Would you like us to write a letter? Would you like any support? And this will also help you to understand how you're tracking. Do you need to review your operate, whatever you're doing? Does then need reviewing? Let's say like it's been 3 months since the participant signed the contract. When is the right time for you to sit down and say, okay, so it's been 3 months. Is this actually been a mutually beneficial relationship, or I'm just providing services for the sake of providing services and getting them money in? That would be completely wrong. You have to ensure that what you're doing is actually beneficial for the client. Otherwise, it's probably best to referral to someone else that can do a better job, and we move on. Okay, this could be like an example. This could be one of the ways you can use triggers and reminders. Of course, every practice operates in their own ways. This is how I have seen it in the past working, and this is the way I believe it could work for some. Consent, privacy. So even here, we want to make sure that like the consent is recorded. Everyone in the organization can see it. And of course, if the consent is received is given to receive marketing updates, then this is where we know that we are okay to send communication that are promotional. So this is just an example of what like an intake form could look like, and the automation attached, the system attached to the form. So of course there are way more possibilities, but understanding that this is a possibility, it's really beneficial for businesses, and implementing some of these will drastically reduce your admin time, create a better client experience, increase your retention rate, your referral, and everyone will love the way you operate. So if you need any help with this, please get in touch. I'll be happy to support you in implementing a form like this. If you find this information helpful, please keep watching my videos and subscribe to my newsletter, where I will break down each of our client flow breakdown. I will break down each of these steps and go through each of those and provide you with practical guidance and tips to improve any of these in your business. So thanks for watching. That's all. Thank you.